Murray's first love has returned. Not only did he let her stay in our house, but he also gave her his shirts to wear as pajamas. When he gently blew her hair for that woman, I suddenly understood that he isn't cold and distant towards everyone. Chapter 1. I was originally on a business trip out of town. When I found out that Murray had a social engagement today, I rushed back early. I didn't tell him. Murray has a weak stomach and ulcers, especially recently, causing him severe pain. If he can't cancel the engagement, I can only go back and prepare some Chinese herbal medicine for him. I wanted to surprise him, but ended up surprising myself. I opened the door with my key, and the lights were on inside. Murray had returned. But when I called out, there was no response. I could only hear the sound of a hair dryer coming from the bathroom. Following the sound, I stood frozen in place when I saw what was before my eyes. Murray wasn't alone. There was a strange woman in the bathroom with him. The woman had exposed thighs, wearing only an oversized white shirt. Her curly, wet hair was scattered, and Murray, dressed in light gray pajamas, stood behind her, holding a hair dryer in one hand and lifting the woman's hair with the other. In that posture, he almost embraced the woman. Through the half-open mirror, I saw a faint smile on Murray's face. His lips curled up, and his gaze was gentle. Yes, gentle. I couldn't believe I saw gentleness in Murray. It was blinding. Murray and I have been together for 5 years, from meeting to getting married. He has a cold temperament, distant to others, and indifferent to me. It seemed like nothing could evoke strong emotions from him. He does smile, but the smile never reaches his eyes. I didn't pay much attention to these things. Everyone has a different personality, and since I chose him, I have to accept all his strengths and flaws. At least he is different with me. But now, it seems like I'm just an outsider too. Leaning against the door, my mind was in chaos, but I quickly calmed myself down. I knocked on the open door. "Excuse me, can I interrupt you too?" The pink bubble atmosphere was instantly disrupted by me, and the two people a few steps away finally noticed my presence. The woman was startled, and she screamed in panic. Murray also turned his head in astonishment. Subconsciously, he hid the woman behind him. His movement was subtle, probably not even realizing it himself. He frowned at me and asked, "Why did you come back early?" I raised an eyebrow, crossing my arms. "What? Did I interrupt something between you two? Are you already in bed, or just about to be?" Murray's face instantly darkened. "Flora, what nonsense are you talking about?" I threw my suitcase onto the ground with a thud. "Then why don't you see what you two are doing? A man and a woman alone in the bathroom. Is this some kind of play? Quite fancy, isn't it?" "Flora." The woman hiding behind Murray suddenly spoke. "Flora, you've misunderstood. There's nothing dirty between me and Murray. We're just friends." She looked resolute, as if I were insulting her. I tilted my head and looked at her. "If you insist on saying such shameless words, then please move your chest away from my husband's back first." After saying that, I looked back at Murray. "Does it feel good? Are you enjoying yourself?" The woman looked embarrassed and quickly let go of Murray. "How can you say such things?" I sneered. "What things? Vulgar or low class? You might not say it, but you're doing it." The woman was angry and wanted to step forward, but Murray stopped her. "Shut up, both of you." The woman felt wronged. "Murray, are you just going to let her slander me like this?" I chuckled. "What else can you do? Should he scold me or hit me? That would only make things more complicated, considering we're still legally married. Or maybe you two can be brave and tell me it's true love. I'm a kind-hearted person. I'd be most willing to support true love." "Shut up." Murray grabbed my hand and pulled me outside. "Let's talk." I didn't resist, but before leaving, I smiled at the woman. "Make yourself at home. No need to be polite." The woman. Chapter 2. Murray pulled me into the bedroom. He slammed the door shut. Usually composed and in control, he seemed to have lost it for the first time. I glanced at the bed, neatly made, without a single crease. I clicked my tongue in disappointment. "Seems like you two didn't have a chance to sleep yet." I came back early. "Shut up." Murray's eyes flared with anger. "Do you have to say such hurtful things? You weren't like this before." I chuckled lightly. Ding dong. I've unlocked the real Flora for you.
Surprised. Shocked.
Murray took a deep breath. I don't want to argue with you. We can discuss this later. She's my college classmate who just came back from abroad and doesn't have a place to stay temporarily. I let her stay at our home for tonight. Flora, stop making a scene. I looked at Murray. Is this what you wanted to tell me behind a closed door? Murray expressed his stance through silence. To say I wasn't disappointed would be a lie. I was willing to come in because I had some expectations of him. I hoped he would give me a reasonable explanation amidst my sharp attitude. Clearly, I was being delusional.
Got it.
She can stay at her home. No problem. Do as you please. As soon as I finished speaking, I turned to leave. Murray grabbed my hand. Where are you going? I looked at him in bewilderment. A threesome. I can't do it. Murray tightened his grip on my hand, causing me real pain. Flora, what's gotten into you? I forcefully pulled my hand away. Am I the one going crazy or are you? Do you even know what you're doing? Murray, spare me the disgust. I opened the door and walked out. The woman had already changed out of her shirt and was now wearing a long dress. Her eyes were red, and she forced a smile as she looked at Murray. Murray, I should leave first and not cause you any trouble.
She turned to me.
Flora, you've really misunderstood. Here's Murray's shirt.
Take it back.
She handed me Murray's shirt. As she let go, I took a step back and the shirt fell to the ground. Trash belongs in the trash bin. What do you want me to do with this? Murray suddenly raised his gaze, staring at me intently, his face changing. Suddenly he spoke. No need to leave. Stay here. The woman's eyes lit up. She hesitated. Isn't it inappropriate? You and Flora. Murray interrupted her. Don't worry about it. If I ask you to stay, then stay. Where else can you go? Their nonchalant conversation made me sick to my stomach. I didn't want to say another word. I picked up my suitcase from the floor and left, striding away. Chapter 3. I hurriedly walked downstairs. As the cool breeze blew, I couldn't help but shiver. Immediately, a wave of nausea surged up. Bent over, I vomited repeatedly. Sadness, heartbreak, anger, resentment. At that moment, I couldn't sort out my emotions. I felt physically and mentally exhausted, and my carefully maintained composure shattered in that instant. It was too absurd. I never thought Murray would cheat. He was a composed and self-controlled person. For so many years, his surroundings had always been clean. It's not that no one tried to get close to him, but he knew how to maintain boundaries and distance. I had thought that if one day he developed feelings for someone else, he would break things off with me first, rather than engage in such a sickening affair. It had nothing to do with love, but rather a person's character. But reality delivered a resounding slap in the face. Murray, what are you doing? And who is that woman? With these questions in mind, I returned to our old house. I remembered that there was an album in the storage room, a birthday gift someone had given Murray during his university days. Inside were pictures of Murray. There were pictures of just him, as well as pictures of him with others. It was a thoughtful gift. I asked him who gave it to him. He said it was a college classmate. A girl. After all, guys wouldn't put so much effort into such a detailed gift. Murray responded with a vague hum. I wanted to ask if that girl liked him, but Murray changed the subject. At that time, I didn't think much of it. After all, when we talked about it, Murray's reaction was so indifferent that I had no desire to delve deeper. The old house wasn't far, just a 20-minute drive away. Compared to our current new house, I preferred this old one. We lived here for 2.5 years before moving out after getting married. Sometimes, when I'm in a bad mood, I come here to spend some time. It helps me relax. I opened the door, walked in, and for the first time, my mood was so terrible. I quickly found the album in the storage room. The Murray inside it looked youthful. Although he rarely smiled, he exuded youthful energy. Many of the photos seemed like candid shots because they were all taken from a side. Among the few frontal photos was one of Murray wearing his graduation gown. It was his graduation photo. He had group photos with different people, both girls and boys. I carefully looked at each one. Suddenly, my hand paused. This was a group photo that was different from the others. The two people were very close, their arms tightly pressed together. The guy had a slight smile on his lips, leaning his body slightly to the left. The girl had a radiant smile, gently resting her head on the guy's shoulder. Although there were some changes in appearance, I immediately recognized her. It was her. On the back of the photo were two names written, Murray, Nancy. And between these two names, there was a small heart drawn. Chapter 4. I was awakened by the noise of the upstairs renovation. I didn't sleep well that night, feeling drowsy and unable to fall into a deep sleep. When I finally opened my eyes, my mind was still foggy. After a while, I realized that I was in the old house. It was too late last night, so I just spent the night on the couch. There was someone sitting not far from me, staring at me without blinking, a gaze that couldn't be ignored. It was Murray. I wasn't surprised to see him here. I remembered a time when we had an argument, and I ran out. He found me in the old house just an hour after I arrived. I asked him, "How did you know I was here?" Murray said, "Besides here, where else could you go?" He knew I had nowhere else to go because I was an orphan. Murray gave me a home. Someone once asked him why he didn't sell the old house. He said, "Keep it so that when someone gets upset, they can hide here." My feelings for Murray are complicated. There's love. There's gratitude. I thought that he and I could spend our lives together peacefully. Sighing, I quickly freshened up in the bathroom. Murray bought breakfast, and I didn't hesitate to eat. After finishing, I asked Murray, "Her name is Nancy? Your ex-girlfriend?" The photo album was right there, and no one's a fool. Murray said, "Yes." I looked up at him. "Murray, what are you doing? Bringing your ex-girlfriend into our home, letting her wear your shirt, blow-drying her hair. Are you acting out a reunion with unfinished feelings in front of me?" Whether you believe it or not, nothing happened between her and me. I shook my head. "I don't believe you." Murray looked at me with a stern face. After a moment, he rubbed his temples and placed 2 receipts in front of me. "Last night, she slept at home while I stayed in a hotel. Here's the evidence. If you need to, I can pull up the surveillance footage. Nothing happened between her and me. That's the truth." I didn't even look at what was on the table. If Murray dared to put it in front of my eyes, it couldn't be fake. But I said, "She stayed at home, and you stayed in a hotel?" "Murray, your actions have become incomprehensible to me. She's not used to staying in hotels, and it's not safe for a girl to stay in one. Did she tell you that, or are you just understanding and considerate?" Murray scolded, "Speak properly. Don't be so moody." One thing after another kept piling up in my heart, and I had reached my limit. "I want to speak properly too, but have you spoken properly to me? Not used to staying in hotels. Not safe for a girl to stay in one? How many times have I traveled and stayed in hotels? Why didn't I hear your concern? Is Nancy more noble than anyone else? Why is it that everyone else can, but she can't? Or is she different in your eyes?" Murray seemed as if someone had stepped on his sore spot, and he stood up abruptly. "I've already stayed somewhere else. I've already told you that nothing happened. What else do you want?" One thunderclap after another struck me, and I was nearly dizzy. Holding onto the table, I shouted with all my strength, "Divorce. I want a divorce." Murray's expression changed. "Shut up, Flora. Take back those words." He almost gritted his teeth as he said those words. I stared at him with a heavy gaze. Murray closed his eyes and clenched his fists. When he opened his eyes again, the loss of control was gone. He said, "You want a divorce? It's not possible." Chapter 5. Murray and I ended up in this Cold War. I moved into the old house. I didn't go looking for him, and he didn't reach out to me either. I have no idea what he's thinking. I'm waiting for myself to calm down, to be calm enough to handle this matter most efficiently.
On this day, his assistant called me.
"Sis, did you have a fight with President Smith?" The young girl is my junior, quite capable. When she couldn't find a job before, I recommended her to Murray. She has been working well under Murray for many years. She's grateful to me and has kept in touch. But it's the first time she mentioned Murray to me. "What happened?" I asked. After hesitating for a few seconds, she said, "President Smith had a social event tonight. and had quite a few drinks. I was planning to call you, but then a strange woman came and took President Smith away in his car. Silence filled the air for a few seconds, and I sent Nancy's photo. Is it her?
Yes.
The girl's tone carried concern. Sis, are you okay? I chuckled lightly. I'm fine. It couldn't be better. Looks like the divorce needs to be put on the agenda. The longer I delay, the more embarrassed I become. I'm a woman of action. Early the next morning, I found a lawyer to draft a divorce agreement. When Murray saw me at the company, he paused for a moment but quickly regained his expressionless face. This is the workplace. If you have something, let's talk at home. I will definitely go back home, but not now. I placed the divorce agreement in front of him. Sign it, so we can go to the Civil Affairs Bureau while there's still time. Murray stared at the divorce agreement for a long time. Is this why you came to see me? The answer was obvious, and I didn't bother to respond. Murray directly tore up the divorce agreement. Did I say divorce is impossible? I acted as if I hadn't heard, and pulled out another copy. Murray tore it up again. I continued to hand him more, and he continued to tear them up. Until the 12th copy, Murray's face turned dark and menacing. Have you made up your mind? I sneered. Did he think I was playing around without making up my mind? He slammed the divorce agreement on the table and signed his own name with a pen. Let's go to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Murray and I separately drove to the Civil Affairs Bureau. We were lucky, there weren't many people today and we didn't have to wait long. The staff asked, have you made up your minds? I nodded. We have. Murray's gaze fell on me. And you? Have you made up your mind? As I looked at him, he averted his gaze. In a cold tone, he said, I have. All right, I'll register it for you now. Come back in a month to collect your divorce certificate. As I watched the staff lower their heads to process the paperwork, I finally let out the breath I had been holding. Just then, Murray spoke up. Wait, what's wrong?
Murray looked at me.
Flora, are you sure you want a divorce? Absolutely. Murray suddenly stood up, knocking over the chair he was sitting on with a loud thud. Flora, you're ruthless. After saying that, he didn't look back and walked away. What's going on?
The staff asked.
I was also confused, but all I could do was chase after him. Murray, stop. Murray. He seemed oblivious, not stopping his steps. I jogged forward and grabbed him. What do you mean? Murray's muscles tensed all over. I'll say it one last time, Flora. I can't divorce you. I was instantly ignited with anger. What do you mean? What do you mean by saying you can't divorce? Are you playing with me? Murray took a deep breath. Flora, how far are you going to take this? Running away from home, causing a scene over nothing. Do you think it's amusing? You're exhausting me. I looked at Murray silently. I'm not causing a scene. Murray, I really want a divorce.
Why?
Murray looked completely puzzled. Just because of Nancy. There's nothing between me and her, absolutely nothing. Why don't you believe me? How can I believe you? Let me ask you, where is Nancy living right now? The place you arranged for her? Doesn't she still not have a car, so you gave her one? Why did she go to pick you up after you were drunk? Where did you go after she picked you up? What happened? I chuckled and shook my head. We don't even need to talk about all that. Just that one night, if I hadn't come back, what would have happened between you two? Nothing would have happened. Murray grew increasingly impatient. My going to the hotel was a prearranged plan. If you don't believe me, you can ask. I don't believe you. This was the second time I said those words. Murray, I don't believe you. It doesn't matter what you say or do now. No matter how much evidence you present, it's useless. I don't believe you. I don't want to delve into what you did, what you both did. I simply don't trust you anymore, that's all. I'm the type of person who excels at cutting ties. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come this far. Chapter 6. Life has been unfair to me, and I must learn to protect myself. I won't let anything drag me down because no one is pulling me forward. I am an orphan. But before I was born, I was called a child. My biological mother discovered she was pregnant after my father died in a car accident. She didn't want to keep me, which is understandable. It was my grandparents who begged her. They just wanted her to give birth, and they would raise me. They used my father's inheritance and the compensation from the accident to buy me from my biological mother. And so, she gave birth to me. After completing her postpartum recovery, she left with the money. It was my grandparents who raised me. I have no feelings towards my biological mother, no love, no hate, no longing. Because all of that is useless and only brings me pain. So, I let go of her. Later, my grandparents passed away one after another. At that time, I was in middle school, a half-grown child, completely becoming an orphan. Sadness, despair, longing. Took 1 month to process all these emotions. And then I started life anew. Later, someone offered to buy the old house left by my grandparents for $100,000. I agreed. Everyone said I was foolish, that it was clearly a loss-making deal, taking advantage of the fact that there were no adults in my family. But precisely because of that, I knew I couldn't hold on to that house. If I can't hold on to it, I have to let it go. Besides, I need money, I need to study, I need to live. So I sold the house and left the place where I grew up. Now it's Murray. He didn't explain to me right away, and whatever he says afterwards, I won't believe it. I don't want to become suspicious and paranoid.
I won't exhaust myself like that.
Let's get a divorce. Don't make it ugly. It's impossible. As determined as I am about getting a divorce, Murray is equally determined not to. This side of him confuses me. Since negotiations failed, I chose to file for divorce. But what I didn't expect was that on the second day of filing the lawsuit, Murray imposed economic sanctions on me. He wants to terminate the partnership between him and our company. Chapter 7. I met Murray because of the company. At that time, I had just graduated from university and started a business with a few classmates. We were full of enthusiasm and thought we could conquer anything. But reality turned out to be harsher than we imagined. We had no funds, no connections. No one was willing to invest in us. No one even gave us a chance to present our entrepreneurial ideas. There were too many people like us, full of passion, venturing into entrepreneurship. Just when we were almost desperate and ready to find jobs individually, a company approached us. They expressed their willingness to talk with us. It felt like we had caught a lifeline. Little did we know it was just a straw. The person in charge told me, "Sleep with me for a year, and I'll give you anything you want." Without a second thought, I rejected the offer. But they wouldn't let me go. In the chaos, I grabbed a bottle of alcohol and smashed it against their head. I was arrested. That person threatened to make me rot in jail. At that moment, I had already prepared for the worst. But then Murray appeared. He was like a savior. He heartlessly dealt with those people, bailed me out, and sent someone to discuss collaboration with our company. I thought he had ulterior motives, too. So, in front of him, I took off my clothes one by one. But he put them back on one by one.
"You don't have to do this," he said.
I asked him, "Why are you helping me?" He replied, "Consider it my pity for you." I gladly accepted his pity. There's no reason to resent it. After all, I am truly pitiful. With Murray's support, our company started to flourish. But now, he wants to use this incident to control me. I have to admit, he does have me in his grasp. I went to Murray's office and asked him, "What do you want?" Murray looked up at me. He said, "Withdraw the divorce lawsuit." We faced each other in a standoff. With his calm demeanor, he made his stance clear. I let out a laugh. Just this. "Fine. I'll withdraw it immediately. Any other questions?" My quick response didn't seem to satisfy Murray. His eyebrows furrowed tightly. After a while, he asked, "When are you moving back? Is that a condition, too?" Murray pressed his lips into a thin line. "All right, I understand. I'll move back today. Is that okay?" Murray threw the pen he was holding onto the table. "Get out. As you wish." The smile on my face disappeared completely after I got into the car. I hate this feeling of being controlled by someone. No one can control me. Not even Murray. I made a phone call. "Are you all at the office?" "Wait for me. I'll be back for a meeting." The meeting lasted a long time, until early morning before it ended. But it didn't achieve the result I wanted. My idea was to find a different partner. The market is so big, it's not just Murray. Murray can be stopped at any time, and we can replace him any time. But they didn't agree. They've become too comfortable, seeking stability instead of change. Murray's conditions were generous enough. No matter how we end the collaboration with Murray, we will incur losses. Their thinking is, as long as Murray can still collaborate, he is the first choice. They even advised me, why fuss over such a small matter? Which man doesn't have affairs outside? Especially someone like Murray. As long as he doesn't cross any moral boundaries, what can't be forgiven? I scoffed at their words. So, this is what they call a difference in principles. It seems like it's time for me to leave. But leaving will take some time. I need time to ensure that the funds I receive won't be diminished. So, I moved back. When I returned, Murray was still awake. He sat in the living room with a notebook in his arms. When he saw me, he took off his glasses. Let's talk. I directly rejected him. I'm tired. Maybe next time. Murray's face turned grim. I pretended not to see and went straight into the guest room. I didn't know which room Nancy slept in that night. I didn't know what she touched or used. Anyway, everything in this house now disgusts me. In the end, I took a bed sheet and made do on the couch for the night. But when I woke up, I found myself in bed. This instantly darkened my face. Murray was in the kitchen frying eggs. I angrily questioned him. Who gave you the right to touch me? Murray stopped his actions. Taking a deep breath, he said, the bedsheets and covers were all changed. They're clean. I gritted my teeth. It doesn't matter. In this house now, even the air makes me sick. Flora, Murray scolded in a low voice, you've gone too far. She only stayed for one night. Nothing happened. What are you doing? I sneered at him. What am I doing? If I were wearing another man's shirt, showing off my thighs, sensually leaning into his arms, letting him blow dry my hair, then maybe you would understand how I feel. You dare. Murray's eyes were blazing. I looked at him coldly. It's not about daring or not, it's about not doing it. Because I have principles. Do you? Disgusting. Chapter 8. Murray and I ended up breaking up. He poured his breakfast into the trash can and stormed back to his room, his face cold. I wasn't any nicer. I slammed the door with a loud bang. And just like that, we entered another Cold War. I was busy coming home late every day. Murray was busy too. For several days, we didn't even cross paths. During this time, I met some people and discussed matters related to selling shares. If I were to sell shares, the people from the company should be the first choice. But their stance was too clear. They didn't stand on my side. In order to maximize my interests, I had to seek outsiders. The only favor I left was to distribute the shares. At least those who had shares wouldn't have decision-making power in the company. As for whether they wanted to take back the shares later, that was up to them. Things went smoothly. With each sum of money credited, I completely withdrew from the company. They went crazy, angrily coming to find me. Their faces turned red, looking terrible, as if they were about to tear me apart. I gave you a choice, but you didn't want it. Actually, things are not bad this way. Murray and I would have ended up tearing each other apart sooner or later, and by then, you wouldn't be the target of our anger. And kicking me out, you have considered it too. They avoided eye contact, their gaze shifting. You're talking nonsense. When did we ever have such thoughts? I felt disinterested. That's because you're afraid of Murray. Otherwise, when one rabbit dies, another is cooked. Who remembers whom? The company matters were completely resolved, and now it was time to settle things with Murray. But what surprised me was that before I could go find Murray, Nancy found me first. She said she wanted to talk to me. I agreed. As soon as we sat down, she questioned me, why haven't you divorced him? How long do you plan to entangle Murray? I couldn't help but laugh at her words. What authority do you have to say such things to me? Are you a lover? The other woman. Did Murray agree to it? He's been telling me all along that you have no relationship whatsoever. Do you understand what that means? You're not even worthy of being the other woman. As I spoke, I looked her up and down. And it's not that I don't want a divorce. It's that Murray absolutely refuses. Is that all you're capable of? Nancy's eyes turned red with anger. You're talking nonsense. How can Murray not want a divorce? He doesn't even like you. If not for... Nancy suddenly stopped. I looked at her in confusion. Not for what? What were you going to say? A cunning smile appeared on Nancy's face as her eyes flickered. You've never been curious, have you? You and Murray are like two people from different worlds. Why did he suddenly appear? And why did he inexplicably help you, Flora? Don't you think these are all just coincidences? You're too naive. I asked her, what do you mean? Nancy raised an eyebrow and said, you want to know? Then begged me. I silently looked at her and then chuckled. Well, keep it to yourself, but don't say a word. After saying that, I got up to leave. Nancy panicked. Flora, stop right there. I didn't stop my stride. Flora, I pushed open the door to leave.
Wait.
Nancy raised her voice. Come back, I have something to show you. I smirked and confidently sat back down. Nancy lost her initial arrogance. Good. This is the right attitude for conversation. Nancy, with a cold face, didn't waste any more words and directly took out a photo from her handbag. She pushed the photo in front of me. She said, this is Murray and his foster mother. I glanced at the photo indifferently. Murray in the photo looked about 5 or 6 years old, thin, dark, and small. If it weren't for Nancy's words, I wouldn't have recognized him at all. Just as I wondered why Nancy wanted to show me this photo, the appearance of that woman stunned me. A distant memory flashed before my eyes. I had seen this woman before. In my hometown, at the bottom of the wardrobe filled with my grandmother's clothes, there was a dark red notebook. On the notebook, 3 words were written marriage certificate. When I flipped it open, there was a photo. The photo had 2 people. One was my deceased father, and the other was my runaway mother. Chapter 9. I don't know much about Murray's family situation. All I know is that both his parents have passed away, and he has no siblings or close relatives. He is an orphan just like me. The only difference is that he has money, and I don't. Murray visits his parents' graves every now and then. I've mentioned going with him, but he refused. He said no need. His no need extinguished any thoughts I had of taking him back to meet my grandparents. Sometimes I wonder if our way of being together is right or not. There is no answer. I have no experience interacting with others and no elders to guide me. In the end, all I can say to myself is, this is how it is. With this attitude, I have been living with Murray for 5 years. And now, Nancy tells me that these 5 years have been nothing but a joke. Nancy says that Murray is an orphan, a true orphan who grew up in an orphanage. But he was lucky. When he was 6 years old, a wealthy couple adopted him. The couple had no children of their own and treated him as their own, especially his foster mother, who treated him no differently than her biological child. His foster father passed away when he was 12 due to illness, and his foster mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer 6 years ago and passed away after fighting for 6 months. Murray's foster mother told him before she passed away that she actually had another daughter. She felt sorry for her daughter and hoped that Murray could find her and take good care of her. Guess who that daughter is? Nancy looked at me, a twisted smile on her face. At that time, Murray and I were still in love. He suddenly broke up with me, saying that he needed to fulfill his mother's last wish.
But why? He was clearly my boyfriend.
How could he just decide not to have me anymore? He wanted to fulfill his mother's wish. But what about me? Flora, look at how lucky you are. Your mother remembered you until her death, and she asked Murray to protect you.
But what about me?
Why should your family affairs sacrifice our love? I took the photo from Nancy. Before parting ways, she stopped me and said, Flora, you will divorce Murray, right? Yes, I said, but are you sure you want to take back someone who you said you would throw away? Murray, let's talk. I arranged to meet Murray at his house. He arrived half an hour later than me. Loosening his tie, he sat down and asked, what do you want to talk about? How should I start? Oh, well, let's just be straightforward. I placed the photo in front of Murray. So, your adoptive mother is my birth mother? Murray's hand, which was unbuttoning his sleeve, froze.
Who told you that?
I shook my head. That doesn't matter. Let's talk about something meaningful.
Nancy.
Murray slumped onto the couch. I should have known. Only she has seen this photo. So, what do you want to tell me? Silence. A long, heavy silence. Just when I thought Murray was going to stay silent like this forever, he spoke up. From his mouth, I heard a more detailed past. My adoptive mother was an amazing woman. She started her own cosmetics brand from scratch. Later, she met my adoptive father, and they came together. My adoptive father couldn't have children of his own, so my adoptive mother suggested adopting a child from an orphanage.
That's how they adopted me.
Murray said, "The greatest fortune in my life is meeting them and becoming their child. But good things don't last. My adoptive father passed away, and my adoptive mother was diagnosed with cancer." As he spoke, he looked at me. "It was only then that I found out about your existence. Flora, I hope you understand that she always had you and her thoughts. She never forgot about you. The reason she treated me well was to make up for you. She transferred all the love and care she owed you onto me. She loved you. Her biggest dying wish was for you to be well and to forgive her. I'm sorry for keeping this from you for so long." As I listened to Murray's account, I was waiting for my emotions to break down or explode. But they didn't. Akamis, unlike anything before, washed over me. "Condolences," I calmly uttered those 2 words. Murray looked at me in astonishment. "Don't you have anything else to say?" After thinking for a moment, I said, "Well, since we share the same mother, let's part ways amicably and get a divorce as soon as possible."
Flora.
Murray called my name, but didn't continue. After a while, he said, "Are you still holding a grudge against her? She's already passed away. Can't you forgive her for the sake of the deceased?" I let out a sigh.
Hate.
"Not really. If I have to say, it's quite unfortunate." "Flora, shut up." I chuckled. "Fine. What do you want to hear?" "I forgive her. I loved her to death. She was the best mother in the world, and I will always remember her and be grateful. Are you satisfied now? If you need it, I can even go to her grave and say it. So, can we talk about the divorce now?" "Flora, I know my name. No need for you to remind me." Murray suppressed his anger. "I know you're not ready to accept it yet. No rush. We can talk when you're ready." I waved my hand. "Let's talk. Let's get it over with. What do you want? What do you need me to do? I can even visit your stepmother's grave every year. Just divorce me and leave me alone." Every word spoken with Murray now, every second spent together, makes me extremely uncomfortable. It's like finding a fly in a sandwich, and this fly is only half there. "Flora, I won't divorce you. I promise my mother to take care of you."
Great.
I swallowed the other half of the fly, too. "Murray, respect the dead. I don't want to slander your mother, but you pushed me to this." Murray frowned, resisting. "You said your stepmother was amazing, that she built her own cosmetics brand from scratch. Do you know where her money came from?" Murray didn't know, but I did. "That was my father's life savings. Do you know how ruthless she was? She took all of my father's compensation, all of his income, not leaving a single penny. When she left, she was afraid my grandparents would stop her, so she pretended to take me out for a walk. She abandoned me, left me behind the barn to buy herself some time. It was winter and I almost died back there." "That's impossible," Murray instinctively denied. I continued, "I don't hate her. I hate that she wasted my strength. She's just a stranger to me. But you insist on emphasizing how much she loved me, cared for me, and cherished me. But when I was struggling with my grandparents, digging for money in the mud, where was she? After my grandparents passed away, when others threatened to sell me if we didn't sell the house, where was she? When I was bullied, almost resorting to a knife fight, where was she? In my sophomore year, when my money was stolen, tuition, living expenses gone, and I almost jumped off the roof, where was she? Why bother? Without discussing emotions, she's a stranger. If we do talk about emotions, she deserves to go to hell." Every word I said made Murray's face turn pale. "I don't know, we don't know. Mother wanted to compensate you, Flora. She just didn't know how to face you." I sneered. "Poor her. She could have lived a life of abundance and worry-free, but she chose to let me grind her heart like a pebble. I must be cursed." "That's not what I meant." Murray desperately tried to explain, but he clearly wasn't good at it. The intense emotional turmoil made me feel uncomfortable, and I pressed my temples with my hand.
You people are really something.
Because you feel guilty towards me, you compensate me. Am I the one who died? Shouldn't the guilt be compensated to me? She got cancer, afraid of leaving unresolved issues, so she passed the responsibility on to you, so she could leave with a clear conscience. As for you, you wanted to repay a debt, fulfill a mission, so you married me. How unfair. I looked at Murray curiously. Why do you think the best compensation you can give me is to marry me? Did you think I couldn't find a husband? You might as well have given me more money back then, really. Murray, let's get a divorce. I was born from her womb. There are records and birth certificates to prove that I am her daughter. If you still disagree, I'll have no choice but to sue you for the inheritance. Chapter 11. That day, I rambled on and on. Murray listened quietly, except for a few words he spoke at the beginning. We both knew that there was no possibility between us anymore. Divorce was inevitable. I waited for 3 days until Murray finally agreed. This time, he drafted the divorce agreement. He gave me more than half of the property, the shares of the company, and other things, but I didn't pay much attention to them. I don't care about these things. My therapist once said that my biggest problem is the lack of desire, no desire for anything, including money. It's easy to understand, after all, there is no one behind me and no one ahead of me. He asked me, "What do you want the most?" You have to find something you want the most for yourself. Otherwise, I won't even have the desire to live. I thought for a long time, and then I told him, I want someone to love me. I strive to live, work hard, and make myself a better person, just to be loved by someone. But Murray ruined it all. He ruined my 5 years. I dislike him, but I can't hate him. I can't let him leave such a deep mark in my heart. I have to tell myself that he at least helped me, no matter what his motives were. He once saved me from danger. All I need to do is let go of him. Letting go, that's what my therapist told me. You have to decisively let go of the things that are dragging you down and move forward without looking back. The people who love you are waiting ahead. Murray and I registered our divorce at the Civil Affairs Bureau and received the divorce certificate a month later. I decided to leave this city. Nancy also left. She said it's really meaningless. I couldn't let go of him for so many years, but it turns out it was all for nothing. You know, all these years, was I just wasting my time? By the way, I want to apologize to you for getting involved in your life. I'm sorry. I didn't forgive her, nor did I hate her. She was just a passerby in this period of garbage years for me. She tripped me up, and I stumbled. I brushed off the dust, stood up, and had to keep moving forward. I won't look back. True heroes never look back. Proud Chapter 12. Murray didn't truly understand Flora until she left the city. To him, the former Flora was merely someone he owed a debt to. He married her, provided her with resources, gave her money, and thought that was enough. Flora was just a vague symbol to him, thinner than a piece of paper. He couldn't see Flora making medicine for him. He couldn't see Flora making him laugh. He couldn't see Flora's expectations. Nor could he see Flora's disappointments. Letting Flora spend 5 years with his blind self was truly unfortunate. It wasn't until the 3rd month after Flora left that Murray found out she had been seeing a therapist. The therapist refused to disclose the patient's condition. But he said, living is a difficult thing for Flora, but she has always been trying hard. She is the strongest patient I have ever seen. From that day on, Murray began searching for Flora. He wouldn't disturb her. He just wanted to know if Flora was safe. After a year, he finally found Flora in a particularly small city. But she wasn't alone. She was holding the hand of a toddling child. At that moment, Murray's heart almost stopped beating. He booked a flight overnight and rushed to that city.
He saw Flora.
She had become thin, and also gentler. Flora was surprised to see him. Long time no see. Murray was at a loss for words for the first time. Long time no see. His gaze couldn't help but fall on the child. Flora was so clever, she instantly understood. She chuckled softly, "Don't misunderstand. It's not mine biologically. I adopted them." An orphan. Murray's heart soared, and then plummeted heavily. Flora was right. He truly thought that this was the child Flora had given birth to behind his back. What a disappointment. It was at that moment that he understood. He truly longed for a child that he and Flora could have nurtured together. Murray suddenly felt like crying. What had he done? Can I come to see you in the future? To see the child? Flora shook her head. It's best not to. Otherwise, I'll have to move again, quite troublesome. Murray felt even sadder. He suddenly felt very lonely. He didn't want to leave. He wanted to buy a house next to Flora and stay there. But he knew he couldn't do that. He could only bid farewell to Flora.
Goodbye.
Flora smiled faintly. Take care, let's not meet again. Flora still left. A week after Murray appeared, she left with the child. Through her actions, she was telling Murray not to look for her anymore, not to disturb her. Upon hearing the news, Murray drank all night. His stomach ached, a pain that brought tears to his eyes, but he had lost the person who made medicine for him. He gave up on searching for Flora again. He wished her happiness. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more personal stories and life lessons.